Kamala Harris is turning to her running mate, Tim Walz, hoping he is the secret weapon who can chip away at Donald Trump's support from men. CNN's Jeff Zeleny takes a closer look.
Cracks in the glass ceiling aren't enough. We need to make sure that that glass ceiling is shattered and Kamala Harris steps through.
Tim Walz is hard at work on one of his most important assignments.
You saw it. Kamala Harris can take care of herself. Our job is to do the blocking and tackling and cover her back.
He and his running mate rarely discuss gender, yet the gender gap may help decide the election. Strong support from women has put Kamala Harris within reach of defeating Donald Trump.
When we fight, we win!
Her campaign is racing to win over another critical set of voters, men.
It would be phenomenal to have the first female president, and that's exciting. Yeah. Also, Donald Trump is a strong president, he gets things done.
Anthony Hernandez, a 36-year-old North Carolina voter, is among those at the center of an intense tug-of-war. His ultimate decision holds clues for November.
So are you undecided?
Definitely undecided, yeah. I didn't know Kamala was so well-spoken, That was a change from Biden.
The Trump campaign is working to widen its advantage with male voters overall, particularly young men, with the former president deploying old-school muscle.
Let Trumpomania run wild, brother!
As Democrats take a far different approach to chip away at Trump's edge, with Walz speaking directly to husbands and fathers.
Do you want J.D. Vance deciding about your wife and daughter's health?
His frequent retort on abortion rights,
Mind your own damn business.
struck a chord with Toby Pierce, who saw Walz Tuesday night in Asheville.
It's none of your damn business is my motto now. I think that's a wonderful way to talk about the whole abortion and reproductive rights.
At a rain-soaked rally, Alex Vigil and Kevin Miller said they believe Trump exhaustion could help Democrats make inroads with men and women alike.
I'm seeing a lot less Trump flags in our parking lot. I'm seeing a lot more of my staff who used to be for Trump are a little more excited or a little pushing Trump away.
I'm hoping that it's going to be a surprise. There'll be a lot more men than we think.
This t-shirt was a gift to Bruce Sargent from his daughter after Trump was first elected. He knows he's in the minority when it comes to how many men vote.
We're going to rely on a lot of the women showing out. The men just need to just stand behind those women and come out with them.
It's an open question just how many men will do that. Even those here, like Stanley Benedict, not fully enamored with Trump, plan to vote for him.
He's got a big ego, and sometimes it's a little too big because he'll toot his horn a lot. But I support him because he proved himself.
While the outcome of the Trump-Harris duel may turn on the gender gap or the balance of who men and women support, in this election, gender itself is far less a part of the discussion.
Kamala Harris isn't talking about the historic nature of this. She just puts her nose down and does the work.
That gender gap will be one of the central challenges for both sides in the final stretch of this campaign. Dana, a new poll out this morning from the New York Times makes that point specifically. Harris down some 14 points among men, Trump down 12 points among women. That could make the difference as both sides try to claw back from support from the respective sides. Dana?
Jeff Zeleny, thank you so much for that. Peter and Maeve are back here. Peter, I want to go to something that you wrote this week on this very issue called the Gen Z bro vote. So we're going specifically to the younger men. Can anyone name a Democrat who can go into the media spaces where Trump is popular, the Nelk Boys, Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, and make the case for Harris? Bernie Sanders has done several of them, but it hasn't moved the needle. Walz himself could appear on New Heights, one of our favorites in my house, with the Kelsey brothers, or Pardon My Take to talk football. But again, I don't see how that changes the Gen Z bro vote in a meaningful way at this point.
There's been a lot of conversation about young men this cycle in the crosstabs. Is Trump going to win them? And it's been kind of up in the air. But at this point, I do think that the gender gap is basically very real with 6 weeks to go until the election. And the Gen Z men vote is kind of unrecoverable at this point. So ABC News, Washington Post put out a poll last weekend, sort of tracks with some other data I've seen. Harris is winning young women by like 38 points. So that gender gap is massive. She's only winning young men by 3 points over Trump. That drift from 2020 is very real. Joe Biden Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama twice. They could all count on young men, even if they were losing older men. That advantage is now completely gone. A lot of it, I mean, we can get into why this is happening. Some of it is culture, some of it is Trump's macho brand. A lot of it's the economy. So Kamala Harris is running on some economic issues, of course, but abortion. That favors women. Young men name the economy as their top issue. Young women name abortion as their top issue. Young men are on college campuses. They're enrolled in colleges at lower rates than they were a few years ago. They're a smaller part of the labor force compared to women than they were a few years ago. And so if you're a young person against all of the economic headwinds that currently exist in our society, and you're trying to get access to the economy, get a job, get a loan, buy a car, it's harder. That's true for all young people, but young men in particular feel that. And then on top of that, you have the anti-wokeism and the pronoun stuff and the things that just appeal to young men. And Donald Trump, he plays golf with Bryson DeChambeau. He goes on Theo Vaughn. He talks about Zins. And, Democrats, I'm sorry, like they haven't had a cool guy candidate in a while. And with all due respect to Tim Walz, Tim Walz appeals to a lot of men. He also appeals to that guy, Bruce, in Jeff's package, who's wearing a Future is Female shirt. That guy in Madison, Wisconsin is already going to vote Democrat. I'm sorry. I think, how do you reach the young men?
Yeah, I think the woke, which is a term that can encompass a lot of things, is also a big part of this. Team Harris, or at least the forces that want her to win, are not totally giving up, especially since they have a lot of money. Listen to what the group White Dudes for Harris is doing in a new ad.
This isn't about picking teams. It's about who's got a plan that's going to make life better for me and my family. So I've been doing my own research and decided to check out Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And before you jump down my throat, they're actually talking to guys like us. No lectures, no BS. Just real solutions that protect our freedoms and help us take care of the people who matter.
And Maeve, this is a big ad buy, $10 million on digital platforms in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin.
Yeah, and it's so centered on all of those economic issues because, of course, what has always appealed to younger men and younger men of color, a lot of whom I've talked to, in Georgia, is that sort of aspirational wealth idea, that Trump understands business and that he would help them, build their own wealth and buy homes, et cetera. And so she's really, she's talking a lot about housing policy, what she's doing to bring down the bills. But I just will have to say that, it was really striking at her rallies, just looking out into that crowd and seeing how female it is. I was actually at all of her rallies last week going to find men to talk to, and it was hard a couple places hunting, because it was a lot of those guys that are in the Future is Female t-shirt that were brought there by their wives, but it wasn't the same thing as in the Obama campaign, for example, where you had sort of the curious onlookers that were last in the room, kind of checking her out. There is a feeling of sort of right now, so much excitement, but a lot of preaching to the converted. And Donald Trump is doing the same thing as well. But I do think that this is a big challenge for her in the weeks to come.
Also, white men are not a monolith. To borrow a phrase, a white suburban guy outside of Philly might care about crime. A reason Kamala Harris is struggling in Pennsylvania, she's doing worse among white college-educated men in the suburbs than Biden did in 2020. Wisconsin, more like the Future is Female guy. White men, white people who went to college in Wisconsin give Democrats North Korea level margins. And Madison, there are different kinds of voters in these different states, which, just to cinch it up to the back of the top of the show, we need to look under these top lines. The race is very close and all these states are very different.
I learned so much from you guys. It's great to see you.
You too.
We'll continue after the show.